I'm standing right here beside my newly acquired 1984 190D with a 2.2 diesel engine in it. This is really a milestone car for Mercedes-Benz. In the US market, this was the introduction of the W201 chassis, and it was the introduction of the new, totally redesigned diesel engine. We call these the 60X series of diesel engines. They include the 4-cylinder 601, the 5-cylinder 602, and the 6-cylinder 603. You can recognize them because they're a little slanted, okay, and they have an all-aluminum head. But one of the things they introduced on these engines has caused lots of problems for lots of owners over the years. I can't remember all the emails that we have received concerning this part right here. Now, some of you who are not familiar with this engine will think, well, Kent, what in the world is this? Anyway, it's got 4 hoses coming into it. These are prone to leaking, quite readily leaking, not only diesel fuel, but sometimes coolant. And if they fail on the open road, they can really leave you stranded. So a lot of the emails go something like this. Hey, Kent, what's that funny looking thing located right under the pump? Right under the injection pump. It's got a bunch of hoses coming into it. But it's all wet, and there's fluid leaking out of it on the ground. What is it, Kent? What should I do with it? So I know I should have done this 10 years ago, but we decided today, because of the problem on this 190D, that we should come up with a kit and some instructions so people can bypass this fuel warmer. Yes, I'm going to say bypass. If you live in the warmer or temperate climates, I don't feel this is really a necessary part considering the problems it can cause. Now, if you live in the Midwest or the Northeast where it really gets cold in the winter, then I recommend you don't bypass the fuel warmer. You leave it as it was designed at the factory, and new parts are available. So if your fuel warmer is leaking, then I recommend you just replace it if you're in that type of a climate. So here's the location of the lift pump on this engine. If you've been around the older diesels, it's in a similar location, but you remember the 61X engines have a pump, a hand pump, to prime the system. But this engine is self-priming, so you won't find any hand pump around these 601, 602, or 603 engines. But this lift pump here has created some problems for a number of owners. We've received numerous emails about this, and they say, Kent, what are all these hoses down here? What's this thing down here below the lift pump? And they want to know why it's leaking. And sure enough, this one here is dripping fuel as well. I came in the shop this morning and there was diesel fuel down here. So this is leaking. It's not the lift pump that's leaking, it's this device right underneath it. And if you're not familiar with what that is, it's a fuel warmer. That's correct. It's there to warm the diesel fuel before it enters the injection pump. So this part is available new. But my recommendation is if you're driving this car in a warm or temperate climate, there's no reason to have a fuel warmer because they tend to leak coolant on this side, they tend to leak fuel on this side. So what I've done is I've come up with a kit and some instructions on how you can take and remove this. Just bypass it. And that's what we're going to do now because we're trying to get this engine running and it won't fire. The first thing I want to do is get rid of any fuel leaks because if it's sucking air, which can happen when it's leaking fuel, then we want to solve that problem. So we're going to hook up a tank, a fuel tank right in here. We're going to remove this fuel warmer, bypass it with my kit, then we're going to come back and see if we can get this engine started.